Morning, Kelly. Get started in about a minute. All right, here we go. Any questions on the homework? Solving inequalities and graphing the answers. Okay. I broke this down into two sections. I like doing that first section with really easy ones. And then today we throw in the more challenging ones. And most students do fine with this. So your homework is going to be another worksheet. It's already on Teams right now. It's basically exactly what we did on Friday, just instead of it being a one-step equation, it's going to be like 3- and 4-step equations. Or inequalities, sorry, inequalities. We're doing inequalities. The cool thing is that there's nothing new. I mean, the rules are still the same. Also gives us a chance to revisit solving the equations. All right, that's a lot of words there. Basically, what we're doing is we're solving inequalities, and they will come in multiple step flavors as well too. All right, so this is kind of where it winds up, right? So this is the most complicated is complicated. Notice there's no equation symbol here. We're solving inequalities. All right, so Kylie, take a guess. What do you think? I said Kylie. Kaylee, what do you think the first step is? Okay, maybe she dropped out. So let's see. The first step would be, and here are all the steps, right? As complicated as it gets. If there's a distributive property, I want you to use the distributive property. Once that's done, I want you to get your variables on one side of the inequality. Remember, we always choose the smallest. It just makes our life easier. The third step is you're going to start solving. Usually you get rid of addition, subtraction first, next. And then with that last step, remember, it's either going to be multiplication or division. You just have to remember, if you ever multiply or divide by a negative number, you got to flip the inequality. And oh, by the way, we really have one extra step. Since it's an inequality, we always graph our answer. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps are everything you need to know. Now, like I said, with the exception of the last step, graph the solution, there is no difference between this and what we've done for equations, right? Well, I guess there's two differences. The difference is that you might have to flip an inequality, and then 2, you have to graph the answer. But the actual algebra portion is exactly the same. So today is just going through every single possible permutation of what these will look like. I'm going to try to throw everything at you. We'll do it as fast as you can handle it, or we'll do it as slow as you need it. All right, so we'll start off with a two-stepper first. So let's say we got 2y minus 3 is less than or equal to -5. So if I were to check these off, well, let's see. It says step number 1, if there's any distributive property, do the distributive property. There's no distributive property here. So step number 2, get all the variables on one side. Well, there's only one variable. It's on the left side, so that one's done. And then what it says is it says start solving the farthest away from the variable. So here's the variable y. So what's saying is don't get rid of the 2. Let's get rid of the -3 first. In other words, get rid of addition, subtraction first. Now, I don't want to say first because we've already done 2 steps, but you kind of get the idea. All right, so let's see. To get rid of a -3, we're going to add 3 to both sides. Notice we're not multiplying or dividing by a negative, so I don't flip an inequality yet. Let's see, -5 plus 3, -5 plus 3 is -2. We get rid of this 2, attach the y for multiplication by division. So we divide both sides by 2. Let's see, the 2's on the left side cancel, and we're left with y is less than or equal to -1. All right, Now you're like, wait a minute, shouldn't I have flipped the inequality? I got a negative. Remember, it's not that you get a negative, it's that if you ever multiply or divide by a negative. Notice here, we were dividing by, why aren't you drawing? Here, you are dividing by a negative, or positive 2, not a negative 2. That's why we didn't flip the inequality. Had a couple people ask, I want to say it was Harley asked about the graphing. So remember, when we graph, in yellow here is what we're graphing, we only need one tick mark. And the number that goes underneath the tick mark is the number that's in yellow right there, -1. And because it's a number line, we know that the numbers that go to the right get bigger than -1, and the numbers that go to the left of -1 get smaller. And Harley's question is, do I need any other numbers? Well, I mean, I guess you could. One number smaller than -1 is -2. One number bigger is 0. Okay, there's two other numbers, but they're really not required because we already know what those numbers would be. What's really required is that one number, -1, is there. Remember graphing, open or closed circle. Well, in this case, since it's less than or equal to, it would be a closed circle. And it says the solutions, I'm saying that instead of the word y, the solutions are smaller than -1. That would be shade left. All right, Porter, I think it was, and a couple other kids, when they were writing their answer, they were doing this. They were putting the circle and the shading above the number line. No, it needs to be exactly the way that I drew it. So the circle needs to be on the, literally on the number line, and the shading needs to be on the number line. If you do this above, technically that's not what we want, right? That's not how we want to write the answer. We want to write the answer like that. Okay. All right, there's a two-stepper. Done. Let's do another one. All right, so what does it say? It says, let's see, is there any distributive property involved? Nope, no distributive property, so I'm done with that step. Is there any variables on both sides? Nope, there's only on one side. So we get rid of addition and subtraction next. So to get rid of a -1, we add 9, -1, I meant -9. We add 9 to both sides, 11 to 9 is 20. Notice we have not multiplied or divided by a negative number, so I don't flip it. To get rid of this -5, we don't add 5 because it's attached by multiplication. Now we divide by -5, and there should be alarm bells going off in your head because notice what we just did. We just divided both sides by a negative number. That's going to flip the inequality. So that greater than now becomes a less than. The -5s cancel. The greater than becomes a less than. And then we can do the math. 20 divided by -5 is -4. Questions on what I just did? We graph. To graph this number line with one tick mark, with a -4. Where did I get the -4? Right here in yellow, -4. If we wanted to put other numbers, we could. So that would be -5. That would be -3. Okay. This one is going to require an open circle. The open circle goes on the number line, not above it. The solutions are smaller than -4. I'm reading it from variable to number. The solutions are smaller than -4. Well, the numbers that are smaller than -4 are to the left, and there you go. There's your answer. Questions? Okay. Here are two in front of you. Kaylee, you're back. Kaylee, do the one on the left for me. First step.
You do subtract 3 from both sides.
Agreed. 15 minus 3 is 12. Now what?
Now divide both sides by -6.
Did you just say divide by a negative or a positive?
Negative.
So therefore, we need to remember to flip the inequality. What I would recommend is as soon as you notice that you're multiplying or dividing by a negative, flip the inequality. And that way you can't forget to do it. So this is one of those drop-in negative things. Kids will remember this rule, but they'll forget to flip the inequality when they multiply or divide by a negative number. So one way you get around that is simply just do it immediately. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Number line, -2, shade right. Open circle, open circle. Why? Or the solutions are bigger than -2. All right, very good. Good job. Second one, let's see. We got to add 16 to both sides. Now, notice I get a negative answer right here. It doesn't matter. I didn't divide by a negative number. I'm dividing by a positive 8 right here. So when I divide by a positive 8 and those cancel, even though the answer, right, the answer is going to be -1, I never divided by a negative number, so I don't need to flip the inequality. So let's see, open circle, the solutions are smaller than -1. Remember, the time that you got to be really careful is when the variable is on the right side, and you're going to read it therefore from right to left. All right, so there's your easy as they come two-step equations. Any questions on those? Okay. Quick reminder, the distributive property, remember, requires, in this case, 2 arrows. I highly recommend don't just write the 2 arrows, do 1 arrow at a time, and then write the answer, right? So that would be 2x minus 6. The most common mistakes are you write the 2 arrows and you forget to do the second multiplication. Or maybe there's negatives involved and you drop a negative, okay? All right. This time I'm distributing in -2. Now, if I use the distributive property, I'm not multiplying both sides by -2. I'm only multiplying one side by -2. So I don't need to flip the inequality if I'm using the distributive property. And remember, negative times a negative is a positive. All right, let's see how that would look like in a problem. So here's a problem right here. All right, this is when it starts getting more complicated. But remember, it's basically the same thing that we've done before for solving equations. We just got to remember to flip an inequality occasionally and to always graph our solution. So if there is a distributive property, notice step 1 says if there's a distributive property, do that first. So I'm going to do the distributive property first. All right, 3 times t is 3t. 3 times 1 is 3. The second step says, well, move the variables to one side and simplify. Well, they're already on one side. I got a 3t and a -4t. But I can group those together. 3t minus 4t, 3t minus 4t would be -t. You know, well, why didn't you write -t plus 3? Well, remember, that's the same answer. I didn't do anything different. You can if you want to. All right, let's see what comes next. That's not a -3, that's a +3. Look to the left, that's a +3. So I need to subtract 3 from both sides. Negative and negative. Oh, by the way, in 7th grade, I'm doing this literally thing right now. So they're struggling with how do you do -5 plus -3? Well, that's -8. How do we get rid of a negative? Well, we can either multiply both sides by -1 or divide both sides by -1. And remember, when you do that, you just said you're going to divide both sides by -1. So we got to flip the inequality. So we get t is less than or equal to 8. Closed circle, the solutions are smaller than 8. So closed circle, shade left. Questions? Okay, let's do one. So this is one typically where I will see kids run into problem. And the problem is that it's that where this -2 is written. So a lot of kids will want to distribute a +2 or really distributing a -2. Okay. So 2 arrows, right? -2 times +4m is -8m, and -2 times +7 would be -14. Okay. Step number 1 done. Second step, let's see. Let's combine the 5 and the -14. 5 minus 14 is -9. 5 minus 14, different signs, so subtract. -9. Next step, let's see. We can add 9 to both sides. Gives me 24. Last step, we're not going to add 8 to both sides because the -8 is attached through multiplication. So we're going to divide. And as soon as I say we're dividing by negative, I'm going to flip that inequality so I don't forget. So it's now going to be a flipped inequality. The -8's cancel. Positive divided by negative is negative. All right, variables on the other side, so just be careful. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it from variable. I'm going to read it in this direction, from variable to number. So open, tick mark, -3, but when I read it, it says m is less than smaller than or equal to negative. So the numbers that are smaller than or equal to, that would be a closed circle and shade left. All right, there's one flavor where variables are still on just one side, but we got the distributive property. Questions? Okay, pick one of those and do it. Pick one of those and do it. Left one or the right one, it doesn't matter. I'll give you a 30-second head start. All right, the one on the left, we're distributing a -2. So I'm distributing a -2. -2 times x is -2x. -2 times a +4, -8. Let's see, I can group together the 10 and the -8. 10 minus 8 is 2. 10 minus 8 is 2. You're like, well, why didn't you write 2 minus 2x? You could.
Mr. C, couldn't you put the 2 on the right side of the, wait,
I know.
couldn't you put the 2, the positive 2 on the left side?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, well, let's see. I still got to get rid of a +2. So to get rid of a +2, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. Oh boy, am I getting lazy now. I'm leaving that step off. I'm subtracting 2 from both sides. 22 minus 2 is 20. And then last step, we're not adding 2 to both sides. It's attached by multiplication. So we're going to divide by -2. That would flip the inequality. Notice I flipped the inequality because I'm dividing by -2. And I get -10. That would be open circle. X is smaller than -10, so shade left. For those that did the one on the right, distribute the 11 to the inside. That would be -22 and -11t. Let's see, I can group together the -22 and the +4. That would give me -18. Move the 18 to the other side. That means add 18 to both sides. That gives me, what, 70? Ooh, are we going to get an ugly looking answer? Notice I'm going to be dividing both sides by -11, so I need to flip the inequality. And this is where the panic sets in, because like, what do I do with that? Well, remember, we have a nice, easy graphing method. Whatever that number is, that's in the middle. So yes, it's a really ugly number, -70 over 11. But t, I read it from the variable to the number, t is bigger than or equal to -70 11ths. So closed circle, I know that one's kind of messy. Closed circle, shade right. All right, questions on either one of those? Okay. Well, that's one of 3. The only difference is now we're going to have variables on both sides. Look, I got variables on the left side and the right side. So there is no distributive property here, so I don't need to do that, but I do need to get the variables on one side. So remember, we always choose to move the smaller of the two. And remember, we move it through addition or subtraction. So there's no necessity to flip the inequality because I'm subtracting 3n. It's only when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So I'm going to subtract 3n from both sides. I chose to move the smaller of the two. 6n minus 3n is 3n. And then the rest is the same. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. Gives me a 9. Divide by 3. I'm not dividing by a negative, so I don't need to flip the inequality. And then I graph my answer. So open circle, shade right with a 3, because n is bigger than 3, or the solutions are bigger than 3. All right, one more example. Notice I have variables on both sides. I'm going to move the smaller of the two. -2b is smaller than 3b. So this time I'm going to add 2b to both sides. 3b plus 2b is 5b. And now it's just a 2-step inequality. Subtract 12 from both sides. That gives me what? 15. Divide both sides by 5. I'm dividing by a positive, so we get b is greater than 3. Open circle, b is greater than 3, so the numbers that are greater than 3 are to the right, so shade right. Questions on what I just did? All right, I'm going to slow down just for a second, and once again, you guys pick either the left or the right. Do that, please. And then I will get started after about 30 seconds. All right, let's see. I'm going to do one on the left first. So I got variables. I got 17x and negative 3x. I'm going to move this one. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides plus 3x. That gives me 20x. I'm not sure why I'm writing this out. I probably have it written already. Minus 3 greater than or equal to 27. Add 3 to both sides. So we get 20x is greater than or equal to 30. Divide both sides by 20. I'm not dividing by a negative, so I don't need to flip the inequality. And we get x is greater than or equal to 3 over 2. I'm just reducing this by 10. Number line, 3 over 2. Closed circle, greater than or equal to. The numbers that are bigger than, or that's greater than or equal to, bigger than or equal to 3/2 would be to the right. And there you go. Do it for you nice and pretty now. All right, second one, let's see. I'm going to move the negative 2x first. So add 2x to both sides. Add 17 to both sides. Negative 21 plus 17 will be negative 4. Once again, we're going to get a really ugly answer. Divide both sides by a positive, so I don't need to flip the inequality. Don't panic. I'll do the graph below the other one. It's just that's the number that goes in the middle, right? It's pretty easy. We read it from variable to number. X is bigger than negative 4/25. So open circle. Oh, I did it way above here. So, hey, that's wrong. That should be an open circle. So open circle, that's a mistake. Open circle, shade right. How come I didn't catch that? All right, any questions on anything I did so far? Hate making mistakes. All right, two left. All right, now we got everything going on. We got distributive property and we got variables on both sides. So this is as ugly as it gets, okay? Step number 1, if there's a distributive property, we do the distributive property. 3 times x, 3x, 3 times 4, 12. We got variables on both sides. So we add 2x to both sides. That's the smaller of the two. Stop me if I'm going too fast. 5x plus 12 is greater than 27. Subtract 12 gives me a 15. Divide by 5, both sides. That's a positive 5, not a negative 5. So we get 3. So x is greater than 3. That's an open circle, shade right. Open circle, shade right. You guys should be getting to be pros at graphing now. All right, same drill. Here are 2. Pick one, do it. I'll give you a 30-second head start, then I'll walk you through it. All that time we spent in pre-algebra doing these makes algebra a whole lot easier. Last year, some of you were pretty clueless on this, and now this year, you're experts at it. All right, the one on the left. Distributive property, that would give me negative 3x plus 9. A negative times a negative is a positive. Let's see, which one is smaller, negative 3x or negative 4? Negative 4x is actually smaller. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. So if I added, whoops, sorry. So if I add 4x to both sides, well, we get 0 on the right, but on the left side, we would get just plain old x. 4x minus 3x is x. So we get x plus 9 greater than 5. I think you can see where it goes from here. Subtract 9 from both sides, we get negative 4. All I'm doing is subtracting 9 both sides. Now, just because we got the answer negative doesn't mean we flip the inequality. We only flip it if we ever multiply or divide by negative. Hey, we didn't do any of that. We can go right to graphing. So negative 4 in the middle with an open circle. X is bigger than negative 4, so shade right. All right, let's see. Second one. Yeah, we got distributive property. So I distribute both of those. So we get 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times t is 3t. We got t's on both sides. I think we should move the smaller. So I'm going to add 2t. I'm not multiplying by a negative, so I don't flip the inequality. So I'm adding 2t to both sides. All right, well, that would give me what, 5t? Subtract 6 from both sides. If I subtract 6 from both sides, this is going to be an ugly answer, but it's okay. It's only ugly at the very end. So we get 5t less than or equal to 9. Divide both sides by a positive 5, not a negative 5, so we don't flip the inequality. We get 9/5 because the 5s would cancel. So we get t less than or equal to 9/5. Closed circle, t less than, so shade left. So 9/5, closed circle, shade left. Questions on any of that? Good. Excellent. One last step. It's those special case ones, those infinite and no solution answers. All right. So remember, if we do algebra, right, we do all the steps and all of a sudden, poof, the variables drop away and we are left with a true statement. Now, you've been used to seeing this and immediately writing no solutions. That's because in the equality world, if you ever write something silly like 3 equals 4, that's not true. But notice we're now in inequality land and 3 is smaller than 4. So be ready for that, right? You could literally get the variables drop away and still be left with a true statement. So if you have a true statement, we say infinite or all real numbers. Infinite means any number, right? All real numbers, okay? What would it look like if that's not the case? Well, we subtract 3x from both sides. We get to that answer, but wait a minute. 4 is not less than 3. So this is one of those no solution ones. So we've been used to writing infinite solutions, and you can even put the infinity symbol if you want. The book is going to say all real numbers, and that's fine. Okay? All real numbers or infinite solutions, and no solutions, or this is called the null as in nothing, the null, N-U-L-L, set. That means that the bag, the set, that contains all the answers is empty. This is also called the empty. I know when I went to high school, we called this the empty set. It's the same thing as null set. Right? Null set, empty set, no solution, all the same. Okay, so maybe do one of these. All right, let's see. What we have to do here, we have to subtract 3x from both sides, and we would be left with that. And wait a minute, that's a true statement. 3 is not less than 3, but 3 is equal to 3. So here's another all real number one. So these are the 3 possibilities that can occur. Either you get a true statement, or you get a non-true statement, or you get something that because it's less than or greater than or equal to, you can call that a true statement as well too. All right. So for those of you that need to write this down, if you need to write it down, here's one slide for that. So you solve the inequality. If the variables disappear, if it's true, it's all real numbers or infinite solutions. And if it's false, it's no solution or the null set, empty set. I'll pause for a second for those that want to write this down. Remember, I also post this on Teams as a video within 20 minutes of the class being over. All right, so here's 3 problems. Go ahead and pick 2 out of the 3. Pick 2 out of the 3. You're either going to get an answer or you're not going to get an answer. And if you don't get it, meaning the variables drop away, then the answer is either no solution or all real numbers. Pick 2 of the 3 and do them, please. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're plenty good. Plenty good. All right, I'll start with the first one. Notice on the right side, we can combine this 7m and that m. So if we combine that, we would get 6m minus 5 is greater than 7m minus m is also a 6m plus 7. Subtract 6m from both sides, and you can see that the m's have now dropped out, and we're left with negative 5 is greater than 7. Not in my universe. So therefore, that one is a no solution one. No solution. All right, middle one. Distributive property that would give me negative 12 minus 2s is greater than 15 minus 2s. Let's see, add 2s to both sides, add 2s to both sides, plus 2s. That would give us negative 12 is greater than 15. Hey, that doesn't make any sense, right? Negative 12 isn't greater than 15. That's another no solution. Now, for those of you that are key to, or you tuned into what math teachers do, then obviously the next one should be infinite solutions. Let's see if that's the case. All right, let's see. Distributive property, that's going to give me negative 3w, negative times a negative is positive, plus 9, greater than or equal to 9 minus 3w. Add 3w to both sides. And you can see that we get 9 greater than or equal to 9. Now, don't think that's a no solution. Well, 9 is not greater than 9, but 9 is equal to 9. And therefore, this one is infinite solutions or all real numbers. Either one's fine. Cool. Any questions on anything that I did today? Anything that I did? That literally was it. You got a worksheet in front of you. I believe I attached the answers. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe I attached the answers. If not, you want to know an answer to something, just send me a chat.
You attached the answers.
Okay, cool. Cool. And then we will move on to more challenging stuff. By the way, unfortunately or fortunately, that was the end of the easy stuff for the chapter. The rest of the chapter, I'm just going to say they're procedures, right? If you're good at following instructions and you can write an example, you will be fine. If you're not good at following instructions, you are cursed, because the rest of the chapter is some challenging algebra in the sense of it's all new. It's got lots of steps. It's basically solving equations that involve absolute value, both equations and inequality. And it's kind of messy. So this concludes the easy stuff, and we get to the more challenging stuff next. But it is just steps, so it's, like I said, if you can follow instructions, don't panic yet. All right, any questions? All right, I'll let you go for today. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. You didn't shovel too much snow. I know I had about, I don't know, maybe it was 6 to 8 inches at my house. But it was all hard packed stuff, so it was hard to shovel. All right.
We had 5 feet of snow.
5 what?
Yeah, 5 feet. 5 feet drifts.
Oh, drifts. Yeah. There was definitely some crazy drifts going on. You could jump out your second floor window on some of them. All right, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Check me up if you need any help.